Dead as a Doornail, Book 6 of the Stan Kraychik Mysteries. Author, Grant Michaels. Publisher, St. Martin's Press, New York. Narrator, Eric Aust.
Chapter 9. On the other side of Tremont Street, I gaze into the display window for domestic tech. Signs and logos abound among the merchandise. Apparently, it's all imported stuff, since many of the names have odd-looking letters in them. Things like A, I, and O, and remind me of those tiny colored flags that identify the countries on wall-sized maps of the world. The giant cutout photos of the bodybuilders mounted on foam board also lend a festive air to the place, which anyone buying the goods will need, since the prices are astronomical, and they're not in Danish kroner either. I looked up to see the handsome black man looking out the window at me. I remove my shades. He smiles. I remove the cap. He smiles again, invitingly. Another vote. So I go into the store. The air in there must be circulating through some kind of space-age filtering and sanitizing device, because even mountain air isn't that clean. "Anything I can help you with?" says the man. His voice is smooth, rich, and dark, like a full roast Kenya AA. "Depends," I say, looking around the place, trying to appear half interested, as if that might help bring us together. It's a dumb tactic that seems to work in movies. He extends his hand. The fingers are long and slender, the palm broad and warm, and it easily engulfs my own chubby mitt. "I'm Thorne," he says. "Thorne?" I burble. "You mean you own the place? Why are you surprised? Someone told me your personal specialty was closets." Thorne grins, then looks out the window toward Myron's store across the street. "I wonder who said that." I look out the window too, and I can see into domestic art where Myron is fussing with some sacred object, moving it here and there on the counter for best effect. Thorne says, "Myron and I share a special, what should I call it? A special fondness for each other. He says things about me that aren't very nice, and I arrange my windows to stimulate him." "Stimulate?" Thorne smiles. "I like to fool with him a bit." "Would you like to fool with me?" He says, "Myron is the kind of person who thinks things are one way and one way only, but I think people need variety. Otherwise they get too comfortable. I mean, look at him over there, all cozied up in his all-American bread box. If I don't keep writing him, he'll get too soft, and then I won't have any competition." "And you like competition," Thorne says. "Competition keeps you keen." From the window, I can also see Selina Hightower in her realty office. Her workout has made its way up to her jaw now, and she's talking on the telephone again. Who knows what kind of self-serving deal she's wheeling. Thorne says suggestively, "Did she pull your chain too?" I reply, "Which she do you mean?" Thorne smiles. "The real girl, the land baroness." "Not that I was aware." "It's okay," says Thorne. "I know her well enough to talk about her, and once you get past the frosting, the cake goes down pretty hard." "We didn't get as far as the cake," I say. "Well, I have," he says. "We're married." Thorne savors my surprise. "That's right," he says. "Selina is my wife." So this guy enjoys it too, pulling chains just as he accused his wife of doing. Should I be surprised that two neighboring young and attractive South End entrepreneurs also join loins and dance and pull each other's chains while they're at it? Or is Myron right about Thorne? Is he really a closet case, and his marriage to Selina one of convenience? How else do you find the answer to a question except by asking it? "Is Myron right about you in the closet?" Thorne grins as though he's holding a big surprise for me in one of his big, linky hands. That's like asking someone if he still beats his wife. I'm more interested in the closet. You, he says, you're not in the closet. That's right, I say. And you're married, yet you're coming on to me. Am I coming on to you? Your smile and your eyes sure say so. I thought I was being friendly, he says. I guess I misunderstood. No need to apologize, he says. I'm not. But he's clearly pleased to have pulled my chain again, and I am fascinated by the arrangement with his wife, Selena, whose office is directly across the street. I see you, peekaboo. I amble further back into the store, and Thorne follows me. The foam-backed mannequins in the window are arranged throughout the store as well. They're all wearing the same black bikini-style bathing suit, too, and their faces are all the same, or appear to be anyway. I mention it to Thorne. He says, It's the same guy, all right, but I plan on changing him every month. Your own Boy of the Month club. It's harmless, he says. Doesn't hurt business either. Not in this neighborhood, says Thorne. Most people think they're by Herb Ritz. They're not. Every shot is my own work. You took these pictures? Thorne nods, pleased with himself as he should be. I tell him the stuff looks as good as Herb Ritz. He says, I hope my work goes beyond that. Beyond what, I say. Just look at it, says Thorne. I guess I'm supposed to say, Oh, Thorne, you're right. It's art. It's really art. You are an artist with the male body. But the truth is, the photos all carry the same clear message, but buy these products and you'll be sexy like me. I ask him, Do you know a young guy named Tim Shaughnessy? Oh, sure. I know Timmy, he says with no hint of surprise. When did you see him last? Thorne's eyes shift down briefly. When he looks up, they've lost their chain-pulling twinkle. He says, Do you mind telling me who you are? I give him my name. He says it sounds familiar. Then he asks, Why were you talking to my wife? Do I tell him because she almost ran me down, or because she was arguing with Angie, the hairdresser, or because she was double parked near my property? Because she's a realtor, I say. I thought she'd know Tim, and since she does, I thought she might too. Oh, hey, says Thorne, laughing, suddenly relieved. Now I understand. You're the guy who bought that house, right? The one Timmy's fixing up. So you're Stan Kraychik. That's right, I say. You know about my house, too? Know about it? Man, do you know how much merchandise from this store is going into your place? Haven't you talked to Timmy yet? We've got a truckload of fixtures and storage systems on order for you. Timmy has been waiting for you to sign off on the contract. Is that what you're here for now? To give the go-ahead? Well, hot damn. This is going to be a good day. Not quite, I say. There's a problem. Why? What's wrong? Tim's dead. Thorne looks at me as though my words have oddly slashed letters in them. What do you mean? He says. I mean, he's dead, Thorne. The man loses his regal poise and slumps a bit as though the plug has been pulled on his vat full of charm and it's draining away fast. He says, But I just saw Timmy this morning. When? I say. Wait a minute, Thorne says quickly. You mean Timmy is dead? Yes, I say. But how? He says, his smooth ebony voice sounds a little scratched now. When? How do you know this? What's going on here? I tell him I found Tim's body. And that's when Thorne falls apart in front of me. The guy just falls to his knees and breaks down into long, howling sobs. He grabs onto my legs and pulls himself toward me, crying into my thighs, getting kind of close to my crotch. I'm not prepared for this, and I'm afraid someone might come and see us like that. Closets and storage systems notwithstanding. I love that boy, he wails. I love him. I'm also worried that Selena and Myron can see us from across the street. But since I can't see them from this vantage point in the store, I guess they can't see us either. Thorne's crying continues a while, then it stops, as though it's been turned off. Blam! Just like that. He gets back on his feet, then wipes his face with a pristine white hanky from his pocket. He looks at me, eyes still red, but no more tears. I love that boy, he says quietly. Said the married man. What does that matter, he says. You're just using labels now. Married, straight, gay. What does any of that mean? A man can love another man without it being dirty. Timmy and I never touched each other. Not once. That wasn't how we were. People like Timmy and me live for illusions. For things we cannot touch, but we know they're there, and that was how we loved each other. It was a pure love. He walks back to the display window and looks out. Selena is off the phone now, and Myron is out of sight. Thorne says, "How did Timmy die?" The police aren't sure yet. Do they know who did it? Not yet. Are you working for them? No, I say. Then what are you doing asking all these questions? I'm working for myself. I feel my face flush. I realize I'm acting like I'm officially on the case, as though Branco has hired me, when no such thing has happened. I say to Thorne, "It's possible that someone meant to kill me, not Tim." You? I run my hand through my mop of long red hair, the same kind of hair that Tim Chignassi had. Thorne looks at me. "You know," he says, "you do look a little like Timmy, but is that enough reason to think someone meant to kill you?" "It also happened at my house." Thorne pauses as though he's trying to figure a complicated sum in his head. "You mean the old place you're fixing up?" "That's right." "Are you sure?" I nod. "I found his body." Thorne steps away from the display window and goes toward the back of the store. I follow him to an alcove where there's a small leather sofa. He sits down. Then he shakes his head slowly. Who would want to kill him? And why? And then he looks up at me. His eyes are sharp again. Something has occurred to him. "How do I know you're telling me the truth? Did Selena put you up to this? I saw you talking to her. Is this her idea of a little game?" "I don't know anything about that," I say. "I never even met your wife. Not until today, when she almost ran me down." "Then why were you talking to her just now? I mean the real reason." I tell him. "I saw her coming out of XU? Damn. A salon here in the South End. A young woman named Angie runs it?" "I know about Angie," says Thorne. "Timmy told me she had a thing for him." "A thing?" He says, "Angie came on kind of strong. She's very young." Sounded like it was getting out of hand. "What did Tim do about it?" "He didn't know what to do," says Thorne. "So he did nothing. A sexy guy on one side and a adoring girl on the other. Maybe sweet-tempered Tim liked to play the ends against the middle, which is where he was sitting pretty, and maybe also where he also got caught." I tell Thorne, "I saw your wife arguing with Angie earlier." "Really?" he says. "And since Angie and Tim were so close, I thought maybe there was a connection between Selena and Tim. Through Angie, that is." Thorne says, "Selena is Timmy's landlord. At least he knows the right word for the job." "That's as far as their connection goes," he says. "They had no other business together." "No," says Thorne. "But they both deal in property." Thorne says, "I'm telling you, there was no business between them. Still seems awfully coincidental that your wife shows up at Angie's salon a few hours after." "Okay, mister," says Thorne. "I heard you, okay? Look, Stan, whoever you are, my wife and I had completely different relations regarding Timmy. Don't ask, don't tell. And that's how we stay married. Maybe she doesn't understand how I feel about him, but one thing I do know is that she didn't do this. I am sure of that. She's his landlord. Period. If you really want some juice, why don't you go back across the street to that little shop of horrors and ask Myron about the home show last fall. Ask him about the scene he created with Timmy there. You can tell him I sent you." "What happened?" Thorne says, "I wasn't there, but Timmy told me all about it. And after that home show, you did not say Timmy's name in front of Myron unless you wanted to mop up the mess when the little gnome exploded." Well, well, chivalrous Thorne has come to his wife's defense by shifting suspicion onto Myron. I ask him, "When did you see Tim this morning?" "What?" he says. "You said you saw Tim this morning." "I did," says Thorne. "Earlier, you said you saw him." "I don't think so," he says. "I didn't see Tim. Not today." "Fine. Go hide behind your sexy cutout men." I know Thorne isn't going to say much more, so I thank him for his time and head for the door. On my way out, I turn back and say, "You really ought to be more considerate about flirting with people." Why? Says Thorn. It's harmless. I'm not so sure. Then Thorn lowers his head into his hands and begins muttering. This isn't really happening. This isn't real. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's all an act for my benefit. I open the door. Thorn's voice calls out. Hey, wait, he says. Just one thing. With Timmy gone now, who's going to finish the work on your place? I'm momentarily stuck for words. Finally, I say, I haven't really thought about it. It doesn't seem that important. I leave the store, then cross the street to sing one more refrain with Myron.
Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.